Hey everyone, hope everyone's doing well. I wanted to take a couple minutes here to take a look at the basketball card landscape for being online and online engagement, and kind of take a look at the different options out there and see what those different options had to offer. In particular, what each one might be most useful for, and if that means, you're involved already and engaging online in the basketball card hobby, and you are looking for what might be a good place for you to get more involved in, or looking for what might be a place that has a specific niche that might fit with you. That would be great if you are brand new and you're looking at the different options out there and might want to know what might be a good fit for you. This is going to be part one of a two-part video because I'll do the same thing with baseball cards. So today is the basketball card portion of this, and then we'll do baseball cards as well in an upcoming video. This is a really personal video to me. I don't know if personal is the right word, but I'm not an English teacher, I'm a science teacher. So this is a really personal video to me in the sense that I've really been struggling really my entire time in the hobby, but specifically since maybe in the last 7 or 8 years, to find a place in the hobby that I feel like I can engage and have conversations about cards and really nerd out about cards. And, that's why I wanted to make this video, to kind of look at the social media that's out there, whether that's to just be informative, bring awareness, maybe encourage people to kind of talk more cards, whatever that is. But also, it's kind of been the impetus for me wanting to start talking and start making videos about cards, because I'm a nerd when it comes to cards. I mean, I really love cards, and I could sit there and talk about the stupid lines that are on a card or the shine on a card, and I just don't know where I can do that. I don't know where I could be a nerd about cards, and if anyone knows where I can be a nerd about cards, please tell me. But that's kind of what I'm hoping to, on some level, bring to light, or maybe bring out into the light, is where can we do that? I don't know that I see a current place in the hobby landscape where there's, at least in basketball cards, a really good place that you can nerd out about cards. And so I'm hoping that this video can kind of at least give some exposure to what's out there and what options there are for you. And depending on what your interests are in engaging in the hobby online, maybe you'll find something that's suitable for you, or you'll find what is most suitable for you. Before I do that, I wanted to start doing something where every video I at least make sure to share a card, and I wanted to, make sure the cards were the focus here. And so that's just going to be a small little segment that I'll call a card I like. So I wanted to take a moment to share with you a card I like. And that card is going to be a 2002-2003 Finest refractor. This is the base refractor. It is numbered out of 250. And you can see that in kind of traditional Finest fashion, it doesn't have much of a game background, but it's got a cropped player photo. And this one really features a heavy hexagonal pattern. There's lots of design elements that are hexagons right around the player name, out here in the background. Okay. And one of the things that kind of strikes me as the first thing when I look at this is that this really reminds me of the second year of Panini's Mosaic release. I know that when Mosaic was first announced in 2019-20, people mentioned how it reminded them a lot of Finest. And, I see the parallels, and maybe at a later date, there will be a Finest versus Mosaic comparison. But right when I saw this, it reminded me of the second year of Panini Mosaic's release, which also is really heavy in hexagonal design elements. So here is a blue refractor. This is a blue refractor out of 99. Let's see, out of 99. And it also has lots of hexagonal design elements. You can see that on the back. You can see here the major hexagonal patterns, those on the sides. The team logo is framed in a hexagon. And, holding the two side by side, you can see lots of parallels, no pun intended, between the designs. Some major takeaways, I think, or some major contrasts. Obviously, the photography is much better on the finest, right? I don't know if, again, maybe this is something that could be looked into in the future, but at least in these two examples of the Rashawn Holmes versus the Keon Clark, two maybe ironically King centers, the Clark has much better imagery, and the Holmes is kind of just a standard traditional Panini dribbling image. But, you can see them side by side, and you compare them, and they're both very different cards. You can definitely see that they're different from different eras, potentially different manufacturers. That's the first thing that strikes me when I look at this finest refractor. This set is really significant because it actually has the first LeBron James refractor, the first LeBron James rookie card and refractor. There were redemptions for it, and you could redeem for the number 1 draft pick from 2003. It's an XRC for LeBron, and that one's also out of 250. There's also the base and then a gold parallel out of 25, I believe. More hexagonal patterns on the back. And one of the things that I kind of like about this card is the description on the back. So it talks about Keon Clark. He was the backup center for the Kings in 2002, 2003. And it says that on the rare nights that he logs heavy minutes, he usually returns numerous shots. He blocks a lot of shots. So I just thought it was kind of funny that that it was mentioned here that he doesn't really get a lot of minutes, and you can, it's a little funny that they would mention that on his card. And so, yeah, I think this card has really nice shine on it. It's a really nice shine. I think that it's really unique. I think that, Finest went through kind of ebbs and flows where they showed in-game photography versus having cropped photos. And it's probably not one of my favorite or one of my preferred Finest designs, but what I like that it's different. I can't think of another place other than that mosaic card that has the hexagonal design. There's this texturing here you can kind of see. It's not quite like, you can't really feel like bumps along the surface, but it's definitely not smooth like the other parts of the card. So it's interesting. Again, it's interesting. And I think that the background with the kind of blurred fans, or it kind of looks like this is Clark in a game with the background kind of blurred out, and he's the only one focused on, and it's blurred out and grayed out. And then my favorite part is this Clark kind of in the background of his name. It's just so cool. The subtle addition. It's you think that it's just something you wouldn't think of, but it's a really nice addition because you really have to look at the card, spend time looking at it to appreciate it and to notice it. So this is one card I like, the 2002, 2003 Topps Finest Refractor, numbered out of 250. This is the only copy or the only card from the set that I have. And also what jumps out at me is the fact that it's so low numbered. Nowadays, there were definitely refractors that Topps had numbered out of 999 or more, but nowadays, Prism Silvers is numbered to thousands and thousands. So back in the time, 2002, when a simple refractor parallel was rare, hard to find, sought after, and yeah, this is a card that I like. All right, hope you enjoyed taking a look at the 2002-2003 finest refractors. And we're going to go ahead now and jump into our first online platform for basketball card engagement, and that is YouTube. And I've shown YouTube already before in the first video I did, kind of looking at where are the different basketball card videos out there. And so I just wanted to do a quick look again, just to summarize that this is what you get when you search basketball cards on YouTube. This is kind of just the relevant things, lots of pack openings, live breaks, grade reveals, more breaks, can you profit from the new hoops retail, lots of things like that. And there's some statistics here that I kind of gathered from some of my first initial search. Effectively, that is that out of 42 total videos that I looked at, there were a total of 23. So over half the total videos were pack openings. There were only 5 that were collecting topics. So that is things like set and checklist analysis, showing off collections, videos of people's experiences at card shows. And the rest, the last 14, so about a third of them, were on various flipping and investing topics. So things like business and profit in the hobby, PSA and grading reveals, making deals at shows, specifically looking at market and studying markets, or maybe what might be good potential future investments. So that's kind of a breakdown, I think, of what you'll find on YouTube in general. Here's a look at what you might get by sorting by the most recently uploaded. So by upload date, again, even the shorts, lots of pack openings. Here's a rip of a blaster box. Which card would you rather have? Might be at least it's something different. Pack opening. The most recent ones are usually shorts. So people doing pack openings in 1 minute or less. Opening basketball cards. So yeah, lots of pack openings. I think that summarizes the landscape of basketball card YouTube pretty well. Right now, I think that there's not a lot on basketball card YouTube that is different from pack openings, and mostly pack openings, a little bit of collecting discussion, and a good chunk of discussion of investment and market topics. And of course, on YouTube, you can go through and comment, and you can interact or engage with the people that made those videos. They can respond to you. And for better or for worse, the conversation tends to be pretty short. You won't get into really long conversations or discussions on YouTube. So that's what the landscape of YouTube looks like for basketball cards. The next thing that I wanted to look at is the landscape of different forums. And so I wanted to show off various forums, and really there's only 2 that I'm kind of currently aware of, and that's blowout forums and the hobby boards. And so I wanted to take a moment to take a look at both of those forums and show kind of what those would look like for a basketball card collector who's interested in engaging in talking about basketball cards. So our first is Blowout. Blowout is obviously the most active forum by far. They have a basketball hobby talk section. They also have a basketball box and case break section, and they also have a basketball buy sell trade section. So they got kind of all the bases covered in that sense. I'm going to particularly focus on the hobby talk. So go through here and you'll see a lot of product threads, but I would say the summary of Blowout is really focusing on market sort of threads. So things like Tom Brady buying ownership in a collectibles company. There are always product threads, so things like Prism, WNBA Prism, but it's mostly NBA basketball discussion. So, a lot of these player threads, like this Zion thread, is going to be basketball discussion, talking about his career, talking about how he's doing. And of course, there's a connection to cards there, right? And there's an Amen Thompson one right here. And we could just look at this Zion thread, and, we won't take a long time looking at posts, but just quickly, you can see things, just discussion of him and just discussion of his game and discussion of his career, and talking about load managing for him and why you would or wouldn't want to load manage for him. And that's kind of the sort of discussion you'll get. Amen Thompson, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, lots of player-specific threads, lots of market-specific threads. But I would say that the majority of the blowout conversations tend to be on either league talk, player talk, but also a good chunk of discussion of, what's going to be relevant, what's going to be important, and what's going to hold value in markets and things like that, what's increasing, what's decreasing, all that sort of thing. The other forum that I'm personally active in is Hobby Boards. I've shown Hobby Boards before. The Hobby Boards is great because I think that it's a lot more collection and collector focused. I've shown some threads on here before. Obviously, I'm kind of the most active, I guess, person on here, but it's very collector focused. I would say though that it tends to be not really active enough for you to necessarily participate. I mean, beyond the first few threads, I mean, you're talking about a couple threads a month, and there's just not a lot of activity on there. And obviously the way to resolve that is to contribute. So obviously it'd be great to kind of garner some momentum in participating in a really collector focused and collection focused avenue such as the Hobby Boards. But if you want to interact, it's going to take a lot more work, I guess, because there's just not a lot of activity here. So for the Hobby Boards, as great as it may or may not be, there's just not a lot of activity on there, and that may or may not affect, probably would affect your enjoyment of it. In terms of other forums that are out there other than Blowout and Hobby Boards are, Sports Card Forum is still technically out there. It's not active anymore, but it's still out there, and I do see some activity back a little bit. Hobby Kings used to be a really active one. Beckett forums used to be really active. I think those don't exist anymore. And so I think in terms of forum options, you're really looking at Blowout as the only forum that's active that you can participate in. If the presence of primarily league talk and a market-focused perspective on topics is appealing, then that might be something that you're interested in going for. The next social media platform we'll talk about is Reddit, and Reddit does have a subreddit for basketball cards, and our basketball cards is pretty active. It gets several posts a day and lots of kind of upvotes. You can see this post that was posted 7 hours ago has 173 upvotes, sharing a rip, sharing a result or a pull from a rip. This penny auto, and 26 comments on it, and you can see kind of the community is really, I think, a little bit more collector focused, like congratulating on pulls and talking about the design and talking, so it's a little bit more, I think, collector focused than or I don't want to say collector focused. I think that makes other avenues sound maybe not, like, it has a really negative connotation for other medium, and I don't mean to have that negative connotation, but it has more of a feel of loving collecting. That first penny auto had a blast opening NBA hoops boxes, and these hoops designs actually are really nice. I think the design this year is really cool. I like the base design too. We'll see if that comes up, but again, a Magic auto, wow, and then lots of compliments, and it feels kind of like the vibe where not everything's about the money and not everything's about the value and not everything is focused on the NBA. It's really focused on cards, and this person recently acquired these cards, and sharing these cards, look at this thread. What's your favorite game-worn patch in your collection in terms of just the patch and player? I love that. I mean, I'm a really big memorabilia guy. And so this is cool. Let's everyone share our cards. That's kind of what I am all over when it comes to this sort of thing. So I think Reddit is a really good option. I am personally not the biggest fan of Reddit's format. Like, I don't love its user interface, and I don't love the experience on Reddit. That's not necessarily a basketball card Reddit thing. That's just like Reddit in general. I don't love Reddit. The one downside I think of Reddit, although I love the vibe on basketball card Reddit, and I love kind of the sort of things you'll see, I just wish that there was more space for long form content or discussion, and so go through all these. You're not going to find any comments, any responses that are more than a sentence or two long. And that might be fine. And that might be what some people want. I think it'd be really great to have a place where we could talk about cards and here's one example where you have a pretty extended, here's a paragraph somebody wrote, and the responses, maybe a sentence or two. I'm not reading these responses right now, but everything's a sentence or two. But this is kind of, this is great. Look at that thought, that extensive, comprehensive response. And so, obviously you can tell my bias is towards longer conversation and discussion on the hobby, and Reddit does have the opportunity for that. It, for me, doesn't seem to provide that experience very often, and that's a little bit about why I don't necessarily spend as much time as on Reddit. But to be quite honest, I'm a little surprised by how kind of much potential I saw in just going through Reddit right now, and I think that that's probably something that I want to try to participate in more, because I love the vibe that I got from that, and that really encompasses a lot of the experience that I think, for me personally, is what I'm seeking for when I engage online in the hobby. Something that's also kind of fallen out of favor, I guess, with collectors in the last several years has been Facebook. Similar to how forums have fallen out of favor, I think Facebook has largely fallen out of favor. And here is one group that, used to be really, there's 36,000 members, and it used to be really active. It's always kind of been, you can see by the name, it's always kind of been focused on trading and buying and selling. But I feel like this one was really active, and there would be people sharing their cards and things like that. And, it's definitely not as active anymore. The number of posts may be a little deceiving. You'll see most posts only have a couple comments, and there's even that, which is a bump. And so it's really just a place you want to go if you're buying and selling. And even then, I don't think you're going to get a ton of eyes. It may depend on what group you're a part of, because I've heard that certain people have had more luck participating in specific groups. I'm personally a part of a Sacramento Kings cards and memorabilia group on Facebook, and this one is cool because it's talking about, I'm not going to go through all the topics. I'll just scroll through pretty slowly if you want to read them, but there's much more topics that are kind of like discussing, showing off cards. Obviously there's a lot of selling that happens here too, just kind of sharing in Kings news and things like that. I had a conversation with the person, the author of this post. I had a conversation with them about whether or not he's going to continue collecting De'Aaron Fox after the trade, and all the drama that went with it, and so on and so forth. So, there's a lot here for me, because I'm a Kings collector. Obviously, for most people, it wouldn't necessarily be all that appealing to them. But, that is something that's nice on Facebook, is that you might find groups of people that share your interests, share your collecting focuses. And that might be somewhere you can go, a common place where you can collect together and experience, your hobby with your common hobby interests. And so the last place that I would kind of consider as a viable place to participate in the hobby on social media is in Instagram?
All right, so let's talk about Instagram. Instagram is the most popular social media platform in the basketball card world by far. And I kind of understand why. I mean, first of all, just the fact that it's the most popular is going to make it more conducive to other people being involved, right? So more people participate, it's going to encourage others to participate. If I see people posting stories, it's going to make me want to post stories. It's going to make me want to watch other people's stories. It's going to make me want to be on there and engage with them. If I see people posting their cards, if I see some pizza ads, if I can easily open this up on my phone, like some cards, look at some quick, small captions, comments, all these sorts of things that are just quick and easy. That's the beauty of Instagram, right? You can pop it out for just a second, really go through quickly, see what you want to see, and quickly engage by just liking something. The comments are never going to be all that insightful or meaningful, but they are going to be. One thing I will say is, because there's so many people on Instagram, you're always going to get people that engage with your post, right? Like, even if it's just 2 or 3 people, right? Like this post has 39 likes, great, whatever. 3 comments, but it's still really cool, right? Like, you still get people that are responding to your post, telling them, talking about your cards and so on and so forth. And, one of the things I don't love about Instagram is that it's a little bit like fishy and stuff like that. You can really emphasize just trying to maximize likes and trying to kind of promote a following and have influence and things like that. There's a ton of ads on there. And I don't love that aspect of it. And that's just kind of always a little bit of it comes with social media. But what I will say is, you can tailor your experience. That's what's so nice about Instagram, and really YouTube too. I didn't mention that about YouTube, but that's what's so nice about Instagram and YouTube. It's, all these things that I've seen so far, I feel like I've whittled my feed down to just collectors that really love collecting. And this is a podcast, Global Card Collectors. They interview people and share stories of people from across the world, international collectors all over the world, and their stories. But these are all posts I want to see. At some point in my Instagram life, I had posts from people that were trying to flip retail basketball, people that were trying to, recommend investments and things like that. And, I've whittled it down to just what I want to see. And so lots of collector focused people that love their cards, and I will still say that on some level, there's definitely an aspect of, well, if you're on Instagram, if you're sharing a card, it's got to be a big card. It's rare that you see a card like this. Okay. This seems like a tough insert, pack odds of 1 to 288, but it seems like probably not the most valuable card out there. And so I feel like it's rare that people share that sort of thing on Instagram. Here is something that's more common. It's people want to see one-on-ones. People want to see great expensive patch autos and things like that. And again, I think that tends to be, maybe that's just my insecurities, I don't know, but that tends to be, I think, a little bit of my downside to Instagram, is it kind of just promotes that sort of vibe. But Instagram is great because you can whittle it down. You can really narrow your feed down to what you want to see. You'll always get people that you can engage with. You can also, I just kind of we can have a lot of good interactions via DMs. There's a group chat here that's a Kings group chat that, I and have participated in, and that's really cool. And that's been cool to have people you can kind of just like throw a topic out there with these people and see what you guys have in common, and what you have to say or what cards you have or whatever. And so, Instagram's great, I think, for the activity. I think Instagram's great for the volume. I think Instagram's great for how quick and easy it is. But again, it's missing that long form nerdy discussions that I think I personally want.
All right. I really hope you enjoyed kind of this look at the different social media platforms and things like that. And I didn't want to get too extensive or try to ramble too much, so I tried to make it relatively quick for each one. But hopefully it's a look at what's out there for various opportunities for you to engage online if you're a basketball card collector and if you're interested in basketball cards. And, maybe you're just coming into the hobby. Maybe you are in the hobby and it's been a while. I know that, for example, forums really fell out of favor and a lot of people have moved to Instagram. But if maybe you're seeking that longer content, then that might be something you want to use. So hopefully this was useful for you. Kind of my personal opinion is that YouTube is a good place to watch breaks. Forums, Blowout specifically, is a good place to go to discuss the league and potentially some of the kind of market focused and future potential focus of cards. Reddit is a great place to go to kind of get more in the collector mindset, but may not necessarily have the amount of activity as in Instagram. And Facebook is kind of less active, but you might be able to find specific groups or large collections of people that have the same focus that you do. And Instagram, of course, by far is, I think, the most active and the most participated in among all the different social media. There is always someone you can engage with, someone's cards that you can comment on or like or whatnot. Again, to me, what's really lacking, and like I mentioned at the beginning, what really makes me sad is there's just not a big place to have long conversations about cards anymore. And I think that's particularly true for basketball cards. I think baseball cards are a little bit different, and I'll go into that on the next video. But it really kind of sucks, and it's spurred me trying to make these videos and starting to make videos so that hopefully I can, on some level, spur conversation. Maybe this is just for me, and that's totally fine if this is just for me, and I'm just kind of turning my hobby and my thoughts and interests about cards into a virtual diary of sorts or a video diary of sorts. That's totally cool. If it turns into something more where I can meet and engage with collectors, that's totally cool. And if it helps build a community like that of the vintage baseball community that I've mentioned in the past, that would be even better. And so hopefully whatever way or means you enjoy the hobby, whether that's engaging online or not engaging online, and whatever means that is, hopefully you can do that. And, ultimately just hoping that everyone has happy collecting. All right. We'll see y'all later.